Hi everybody and welcome back to Romm's Repertoire, where I offer you a walkthrough, some practice and performance tips, and a live performance of pieces selected from the Florida Solo and Ensemble trumpet list. Today we focus on Bernard Fitzgerald's transcription of George Friedrich Handel's Aria con Variazioni, or even better yet,
Aria con Variazioni,
from the Fifth Harpsichord Suite. Be mindful that while we trumpeters have an increasingly busy part to play in this particular piece, our collaborative pianist has many more notes to play than we do. So we want to be mindful of the tempo and tempi that we choose throughout this piece. The idea is that we want to adopt an attitude of we rather than I. That's a mindset that's going to help you a lot in life. Now, if you look at the cover, you'll notice that Mr. Fitzgerald gives you some performance and practice notes. It would be wise to actually order a copy of this so you have those notes. Very similar to what I will be saying here today, but in printed version, and not nearly as fun. So be sure to order one and not just settle for the less than legal PDF download. Now, a couple general notes. I will give you some ideas to think about, and then you'll hear one variation, then more ideas, then variation. Now, you'll notice that the tempi of the performance at the end of this video are fairly conservative, and that's on purpose. The idea is that we never want to play faster than we, as trumpeters, or our accompanists can best support us. The idea is that we sound stable and comfortable, rather than showing everybody how fast we can play. Try to avoid playing this faster than you can play it consistently and accurately, because then it will sound frantic. Thus, you will not get the score you're looking for. Make sure you're going for a comfortable feel.
Theme.
This is the basis for the entire piece, so make sure that you set your tempos and articulations accordingly. Legato! You'll notice that I don't follow the written dynamics too literally. I feel that too much crescendo and decrescendo can give us, instead of an artful feel, the feel of seasickness. Very different. You'll notice that I add the ornamentations on the repeat, not the first time. Remember, statement first, then elaborate.
Variation 1.
Ah yes, more notes. This one can very easily become very inaccurate by accident, so make sure that your embouchure is set the entire time, because we're making big leaps all the way through. We tend to go to wee, 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 so make sure that your corners are firm all the way throughout, and practice your intervals very slowly, very carefully. Because we keep returning to notes that are naturally out of tune on the instrument in this particular theme, we tend to kind of settle for those being a little bit too high. So get in the habit of practicing low D low enough so that the intervals are actually pure. And also you don't change the sound too much. I like the echo effect here. So when you have a forte, you'll have a subito piano after that statement. So forte, same thing, but subito piano. Makes it sound more like a conversation. I like talking, if you couldn't tell.
Variation 2.
It's very easy for this one to become too pecky, so make sure you're practicing legato but also clear enough that you can make the leaps happen in the right place. As well, be sure to practice at a tempo that you can single tongue clearly. Da 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 dum. And if you need to, one of the good things that you can work on, which will serve you much later in life as well, in your trumpet life, is throwing in a G or K syllable every so often. Now this is debatable, and of course you should really consult with your teacher rather than trusting the random guy online.
Variation 3.
Think of the subito piano markings as echoes, once again. The really tricky part is making sure the fortes are forte enough without blasting, and the pianos are piano enough without getting kind of empties or kind of flubbed notes. Make sure you're also practicing your descending intervals. We tend to practice our scales and our intervals ascending first, going up, but we don't focus as much on intervals going down, which is going to help us throughout this entire piece. So keep in mind the last line of this variation is not nearly as complex as it looks on the page. All Mr. Fitzgerald did was to write out the ornamentation. So make sure that those 30-second note triplets fit into 1/8 note worth. Dee-dum, da-da-da-dum, dee-dum, da-da-da-dum, dee-dum, da-da-da-dum, dee-dum, da-da-da-dum.
Variation 4.
This one, believe it or not, is actually much harder for the pianist than it is for you, so it would be wise of you not to insist on a faster tempo than necessary. Your collaborator will really appreciate you, and you want that. Remember to think light, with only a little bit of stress on the beginning of each big beat, instead of da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, dee-da-da-da-da-da-dee-da-da-da-da-dum.
Variation 5.
Ah yes, Variation 5. Good luck. I'm just kidding. Try to avoid freaking out at first sight of this one. It's not nearly as fast as you might think. Remember the tempo of the theme, we want to fit that right into this variation. So, dee-dum, dee-dum, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum, bum, bum, bum. So make them at least comparable. Fear not. If you have an Arbenz book, flip to the scale section, which should be very well used by now, and go towards the end where you see the 30-second note run figures. If you practice your G scale and D scale descending, you will have practiced the middle section of this variation. So make sure that you're practicing these evenly. Don't try to impress people with how fast you can play. Impress them with how evenly and comfortable you can make it sound. And as a personal request, please, please, please avoid decrescendoing on the last note. You've played all this amazing stuff all the way through there, and if you decrescendo on the last note and try and make it too pretty and all that, then you weaken everything. So make sure that the ending is strong and deliberate and you mean to do it, no matter how it goes. Make statements. Have fun.